From playing mind games before kickoff to delivering career-ending hits, these 10 NFL players have kept their opponents up at night with their terrifying behavior. No one had a more famous way of making his opponents afraid than Ray Lewis, and he did it before the game even started. His entrance into the locker room before the game was a statement. People who played against Lewis said that every time he stepped on the field, he felt like Maximus from Gladiator. Lewis would come out of a smoky tunnel with fires blazing all around him and do something that looked like a scene from his favorite movie. The other teams shook because they knew what was coming. Sports science said that the only reason he didn't break his opponent's bones on every hit was because the shoulder P has absorbed 50% of the force. Lewis was so strong that he didn't even have to be locked on a player to lay them out. He had been in the same division as former Bengals wide receiver Chad Uso for many years, and finally had enough of Lewis's reign of terror. While Lewis had his eyes on the ball, Uso tried to get back at the linebacker for all the hard hits he had taken by hitting him with a blindside shot, but Lewis, who wasn't paying attention, knocked him out like it was nothing and left the wide open without gasping for air. When Rudy's coming, I tried to blindside race, but he ran me over. Consider it a lesson to never test one of the most vicious to ever do it. He wasn't looking and still ran through me, Uso said. I tried to act like nothing happened and make every hit count. For Lewis, it wasn't just quality over quantity. He is still the NFL's all-time leader in career solo and combined tackles with 1,568 and 259, respectively. Tatum's "this is war" mentality was definitely something he could relate to, but there was nothing even remotely civilized about his play. He got a reputation for being very rough with his hits, sometimes even crossing the line. Because of this, he was called the assassin, and for good reason. He was the hardest hitter at safety ever, and Jack Tatum paralyzed Patriots wide receiver Darryl Stingley from the chest down during a preseason game in 1978 while going after an incomplete pass over the middle. People were furious that Tatum had paralyzed Stingley. According to another player, they couldn't believe it happened during a meaningless preseason game, and to make matters worse, Tatum never apologized for the hit. I'd like to wish Darryl a speedy recovery and send him my best wishes. I also understand why some people see Darryl as the victim, but I'll never understand why others see me as the bad guy. Tatum's definition of a good hit shows how he played the game. A good hit is when the victim wakes up on the sidelines with train whistles blowing in his head, Tatum said. I like to believe that my best hits border on phonous assault. Despite backlash from the public, Tatum didn't change how hard he hit. A year later, he faced Earl Campbell, one of the game's strongest running backs, head-on at the goal line. I stumbled into the end zone, and the hit from Jack Tatum was the only time I'd ever felt someone hit me, Campbell said. A shock went down to the heels of my feet, and it burned when I was standing on my head in my end zone. No one knew this, but I was thinking something was wrong. A year later, one of Campbell's doctors watched the collision and thought it caused him spinal problems that lasted for a long time. Tatum's hits will always be remembered as bad, but the most famous hits in NFL history belong to Lawrence Taylor, who was arguably the best defensive player of all time. The world watched a Monday Night Football game between the Giants and the Redskins in 1985, and Taylor was the one player who changed the game forever when he pounced on Washington quarterback Joe Theismann on a flea flicker. Like a jungle cat, Taylor and a few other players immediately called for help because Theismann was in terrible pain and couldn't get up because he had broken both bones in his lower leg. Theismann never played another snap because of that play, and teams at all levels started putting more emphasis on the left tackle position to protect the quarterback's blind side. However, the play ended his career. To quote the famous John Madden, he changed the way defense is played, the way pass rushing is played, the way linebackers play, and the way offensives block linebackers. Taylor won 10 Pro Bowls and was named Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Legendary coach Bill Bishon was Taylor's defensive coordinator with the Giants and said, "He changed the way defense is played, the way pass rushing is played, the way linebackers play, and the way offensives block linebackers." Not caring about his body at all is what makes LT so great. Even Belichick praised him as being by far the best defensive player he had ever coached. While Taylor didn't mean to end Theismann's career, that wasn't the case with Hall of Fame linebacker Dick Butkus. According to fellow Hall of Famer Deacon Jones, he was an animal, and he was a welled animal, and every time he hit you, he tried to kill you. This savage way of playing and thinking came from Buck's unique warm-up routine. When I went out on the field to warm up, I would make things up to make myself mad. He told me that if someone on the other team was laughing, I should pretend that they were laughing at me or the Bears. That worked every time, but opposing players were never laughing at Buck because they were actually very scared of him. As former Packers running back MacArthur Lane once said, "If I had to choose, I'd sooner go one-on-one with a grizzly bear than with booze." That's how I felt the first time I played against him as a rookie. I prayed that I could get up every time Butkus hit me. Along with slamming guys like Lane, Butkus led one of the NFL's best defenses in tackles for 8 straight seasons. Jack Lambert was another linebacker in charge. Lambert's Steelers was the face of one of the league's scariest defenses ever. Lambert's 4 missing upper front teeth made for an unforgettable face. Lambert's snarl was the perfect example of how he played before he became a legend. John Elway had to play the Lambert Steelers in his first career game. It was a moment Elway would never forget and wish it would end. He had slobber all over himself and his teeth, and Elway said, "You can have your money back. Just get me out of here. I can't tell you how badly I wanted to get out of there." Lambert's motto was that the Pittsburgh Steelers were supposed to be the intimidators, and he did everything he could to live up to this, even if it meant almost getting kicked out of the Super Bowl in Super Bowl X, when Cowboy safety Cliff Harris made fun of Steelers kicker Roy Jella patted him on the head after a missed field goal, and Lambert responded right away by body slamming Harris to the ground after the game. He explained the move by saying, "When I see injustice, I try to do something about it." Lambert never backed down from a fight, and his teammates always had his back. His bravery and fearless play led them to 4 Super Bowl wins in just 6 seasons. Nicknamed Draka in Cleats, Night Train Lane was never supposed to make this list, let alone play in the NFL. Lane played just 1 season of junior college football before serving in the U.S. Army for 4 years. After being discharged, he happened to pass by the Los Angeles Rams office on his way to work and decided to stop in and ask to try out as a quarterback, even though he had never played football at a high level before. The team gave Lane a spot as a receiver because they were so impressed by how athletic he was. Lane later switched to defensive back, and the Rams fell in love with his fierce playing style. It didn't take long for the rest of the league to learn about this, as the NFL had to make rules against Lane's brutal tackling style. He was known for grabbing players by the face mask or wrapping them around the neck. Lane started calling the move the Night Train necktie after he tackled John Arnett by the face mask while he was running full speed and left him lying motionless on the field. The next year, the NFL made it illegal to grab the face mask to make a tackle. They later banned a tackle around the head and neck, also known as a clothesline tackle, mainly because of the knit train. Lane said, "My goal is to stop the guy. I am frequently tasked with tackling pass-catching ends before he can gain another inch. If I strike them in the legs, they may advance for a first down, which I abhor more than anything." Lane was also a menace with the ball. To this day, he holds the NFL record for most interceptions in a season, with 14, which he did in just 12 games. But Lane isn't the only player on this list. Most people think of scary football players as defenders, but this guy played on the other side of the ball his whole career. Jim Brown made sure that the other team always saw him in warm-ups, knowing that they'd been told all week that they'd have to watch out for me and plan to stop me and gang tackle me, he said. Presently, this individual who weighs 232 pounds and stands 6 feet 2 inches states, "I have attitude and can beat you in a 40-yard dash." What some might have thought was Brown's arrogance was actually a well-earned sense of confidence. He knew that he was nearly impossible to beat because he led the league in rushing 8 out of his 9 seasons, which was bad news for his opponents. Brown often stomped on his opponents, saying that he saw football as the most civilized sport, similar to war. His famous line was, "Make sure that when anyone tackles you, he remembers how much it hurts," and his opponents did remember. Brown set the all-time record for most career rushing yards with 12,312 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, and 10 total rushing touchdowns. His record for career rushing yards per game is still 104, 3 years later, and no other player has even come close to breaking the 100-yard per game mark since. While Brown was always a superstar on the football field, James Harrison's rise to the top of this list is a true underdog story. Harrison was released 3 times as a rookie because he was too short but he didn't give up on his dream. Those setbacks motivated and fueled him to become one of the toughest and most durable players the game has ever seen. They also made Harrison never take his foot off the gas on the field. My goal when tackling someone was to knock them out of the game. I didn't want to hurt them, but I wanted to hurt them, even if it was a close friend. In the same 2010 game against the Browns, Harrison knocked out 2 different players. Harrison told Cleveland wide receivers Josh Cripps and Muhammad Massa, "I tried to hurt people. I never meant to injure anyone. I tried to hurt people. I wanted them not to be able to finish the game when I hit my homeboy, Josh Cripps. I felt like when I hit him, that hurt. I want to be able to say, I got you." When he talked about the hit on Massa years later, he said, "I hit Massoy with about 50%, bro, dead serious. I just wanted him to. If I had known then what I know now, I would have given him everything I had. If I knew they were going to fine me $75,000 for that, I would have smashed him so badly that he might not have made it off the field." As Harrison got older, neither his VI's viciousness nor his otherworldly strength faded. Most defenders don't play past 39, but he was still lighting up opposing wide receivers and going viral for his workout videos. In 2017, a video showed him doing 675-pound hip thrusts, hang cleans, and reverse lunges at 315 pounds, as well as 225-pound overhead triceps extensions and 800-pound sled pushes. Reggie White was another player with superhuman strength who made opposing teams' lives a living hell. As former Eagles wide receiver Mike Quick put it, he could take a 320-pound man and just throw him like it was nothing. I've seen that happen. White was freakishly strong, but he was also fast and athletic, so he could move like a linebacker while playing defensive end. Herm Edwards, who played with White on the Eagles, said, "I'd never seen anyone that big, that strong, and that fast." White was so explosive that he pushed blockers back like they were on roller skates. This very rare mix of speed and strength made him a star. In his career, he recorded 198 sacks, making him virtually unblockable. Former Eagles linebacker Gary Cobb said that he never saw Al linemen afraid of blocking Reggie the way they used to be afraid of it. Like White, the last player on this list relied on a unique combination of speed and strength. But at 5'1" and 244 lb, Earl Campbell shouldn't have been able to do what he did. It wasn't a surprise that he could and often did run defenders over, punishing them with his aggressive play. But what was really crazy about him was that he was both fast and strong. People his size aren't supposed to have 46-40-yard dash times. Campbell ran there in a fit of rage, and his enormous 36-inch thighs ensured he never gave up. The team's equipment manager joked that they made 4 sizes of thigh pads: small, medium, large, and extra large. A play from Campbell's rookie year, when he ran into Rams All-Pro linebacker Isaiah Robinson in the hole and hit him head-on, leaving Robinson flat on his back, shows just how strong he was. Campbell then tore through another tackler who was holding on for dear life and was left with only a piece of Robinson's jersey. As Campbell kept charging forward, he was like a human wrecking ball, destroying opposing defenders. Legendary Steelers linebacker Joe Green said that Campbell could do more damage than any other running back he had ever faced. Former Cowboys safety Cliff Harris agreed, saying that after playing Earl, you had to sit in a tub with Epsom salts. Despite constantly hitting other players, Hamill only missed 6 games during his career because of injuries, which shows how good he was, being tough.